Chelsea 3, Liverpool 1. Ah, well. We'll just have to settle for remaining 15 points clear with 3 games to play, won't we? It was a game I hoped we would get, but it's a game that we did get in terms of a team that has just won the title, dropping off that little bit, playing a few fringe players, and ended up losing to a team who had much more to play for in Chelsea, you know, trying to get themselves into the Champions League. Now, I'm not going to be overly critical because it's human nature. When you win the big pot, there's a drop-off. It's happened time and time again to most teams who win the league with many games to spare. But I think there are a few things we're talking about. I'm not going to go through a first half, second half review like I normally do. I think there's a more important issue to discuss today. But before I do that, oh my God, did you watch the game on Sky commentated by Gary Neville? Because I'm embarrassed for him. I don't know how many times during that game he actually used the words Cole Palmer. And I don't know what percentage of the entire game he talked about Cole Palmer. But his loving today, I know the British media are really good at this, at like they pick their, you know, their new shiny object. And he's the new one. He's called a genius and all that stuff, even though he hasn't scored for 3 months. But oh my God, it was over the top today. I think Gary's wanting a personal relationship with him. You should take him out, buy him dinner and buy him a few flowers, see how the relationship turns out. It really was embarrassing. Even afterwards, back in the studio, they carried it on. Yeah, he played well, but bloody Nora. It was quite pathetic. So let's get into the game, and I think the key point to talk about today. So Arne Slot went with a completely new midfield, which I think most of us were open for, that give game time to some of the fringe players. And that's what today's review is going to be all about. So Endo, Jones and Elliott started in midfield. Kwanzaa started at centre-back. Tsimikas started as well. Up front, Gakpo, Jota and Salah. So really it was the midfield and Kwanzaa for Kanate that were the things to watch today. And I struggled with how I'm going to word this, because I just said I don't want to be overly critical, but I do want to make some, what I hope are valid points about the performances that we saw today from those fringe players. Now, you might not call Curtis Jones a fringe player, but I'm thinking of him as more of a fringe player. I think in the big games, the big tests, he doesn't trust Curtis as much as he trusts Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai. And I think we saw why today. Curtis just wasn't at the races at all. He has a tendency to take too long in his decision making, to dawdle on the ball. Now when he's fully focused, fully on it, he can do things quickly. He's shown that he can do it. But when he's not, like today, he just wasn't at it at all day, culminating in the final attack that we had, 93rd minute, and we got everyone forward to try and get the equaliser, and he side foots a pass straight to the Chelsea players. It was an awful pass, and it ends up then going the other way. Rather than being 2-2 or the potential for 2-2, they're down the other end. Szoboszlai does something similar. He makes a poor decision, poor pass, and then poor Jarell Kwanzaa brings down the Chelsea player and we lose it 3-1. From Curtis, he's slow in his speed of foot and slow in his thinking, and it was a sloppy, error-strewn performance from him. Was it complacent, lazy, or just a bad day at the office? But I think it happens too much, and there's probably going to be people here disagreeing with me on that and saying, no, Curtis has had a great season and all that. But I'm looking at this from the lens of what the manager might be thinking. I don't know what he's thinking, of course, but I'm sort of thinking to myself, does Curtis Jones fit into the plans of Arne Slot? Now, I'm going to do a video this week of what I believe are the key attributes that every player who Arne Slot trusts has. Key attributes that every single player has to have if you're going to be a success in an Arne Slot team. I'll do that video in a few days, so watch out for that one. So on to Harvey Elliott. I will give Harvey a disclaimer that he's barely kicked a ball, and I think he's been unfortunate because he tries so hard, and he had a good pre-season, but Arnie hasn't trusted him all season. He's barely given him game time, and again today he had little to no impact on the game. He doesn't fill me in with the greatest of confidence in his positional discipline. I know he's got loads of drive and commitment, but I think Slot needs positional discipline as a key factor for all of the players. And Harvey goes wandering off. He runs at places he shouldn't run. He doesn't make the right runs on too many occasions. And again today, he just had no impact. And then he has moments where, in a bit of a cul-de-sac, and he tries shooting when he shouldn't try shooting. And all in all, I sat there today, I was watching it with quite a few people, and we were all sort of saying the same thing, is that this type of performance is why we think Arnie doesn't trust him to be a starter. I'm disappointed to say it because I love Harvey Elliott. Unfortunately, a disappointing day. On to Jarrell Quansah. Yes, he's young, and yes, he has time to learn, but even taking that into account, he makes an awful lot of errors. And I think another thing that I've noticed in the past that I noticed today, he was having a pretty steady game, doing okay, until Virgil blasts the ball at him and it goes in for an own goal. And you can say it's unlucky, but is it bad luck, or is he in the wrong position in these situations when you've got loads of people in the box? Because he always seems to have the bad luck. I think the more important piece for me, the more concerning piece for me, is that once something does go wrong for him, he loses the plot and he can't get his head straight. Again, youth, so there's loads of time to learn, and I genuinely hope he makes it at Liverpool. But when your head goes like that, you sort of look and go, does he have the mental strength? I remember on day one of the season, in the first half against Ipswich, he was taken off at half time, and he hasn't really been trusted since. And for the few appearances that he's had, he does make a lot of unforced errors. And again, I hate saying it, but I'm trying to look at it again through the lens of where are we in terms of the squad next season? Who is going to step up and who is going to move on, and who are we going to have to buy to make sure we've got the right cover in the critical spots on the field? Now, of the starting trio in midfield, the one I will talk positively about is the performance of Endo. Endo is just so unbelievably consistent, and he had a really, really good game. He barely puts a foot wrong. He's positionally excellent. His passing is crisp and sharp, and he had a good game. So while I'm sort of focusing this review on sort of the fringe players, I think Endo has proven time and again how reliable he is and how important he can be at the end of games more than as a starter. But I've no worries about him. On to Darwin Nunes. One glorious ball in from Mo Salah. Nunes is clear in the box and makes a complete and utter hash of the header. He gets it all wrong in every technical way you can, and it balloons off his head wide and high over towards the corner flag instead of going towards the goal. And it was what Darwin does. Unfortunately, sadly, I don't think we're going to be seeing Darwin Nunes at the club next season. He's been given opportunity after opportunity. He's had ample time to bed in, fit in, and start to show that he can operate for this team at Premier League champion standard of performance, becoming an asset in terms of goal scoring rather than a concern. Right after he missed the header, he then had a 50-50 in the box, wrestling with the Chelsea player. I think he should have won it. Even if he didn't win it, he should have done enough physically to barge that Chelsea player out the way. And if he ends up giving a foul, he ends up given a foul, but he didn't. He allowed the Chelsea player to outmuscle him, and the chance was gone. Now, after those two incidents, which happened in the first 5 minutes of him coming on, he disappeared. Gone. I didn't see him for the rest of the game. And that's another problem that we've seen with Darwin, his inability to positively influence the game. Now, he's done it a few times. Let's not throw him under the bus here completely, but it's too few and too far between. The last one I'm going to talk about in terms of the fringe players is poor Chiesa. I'm made up, he got his 5th appearance, so he gets a Premier League winner's medal. His attitude has been fantastic throughout the whole season. He tries his hardest in the very, very few minutes that he's ever given, and he just doesn't fancy him, does he? And I think he's another one that will be moving on, because even in a dead rubber like today, he only brings him on for the last 8 or 9 minutes of the game. And even then, he managed to give the ball away and set Chelsea on a counter-attack. Again, he's had no minutes. I'm not picking on that one moment as a real criticism, but just hasn't been able to make an impact at the club, and I think he will be on his way out, going somewhere else. So to wrap all that up, Jones is probably the closest to the first team as a regular, but you got Elliott, Kwanzaa, Nunes and Chiesa. I think all 5 of them, the jury's out. I think some of them are going to go for sure. I think some of them are not a last chance saloon yet, but I've got to do an awful lot more. But it's not just all about fringe players. There's one other player I want to talk about, and that is Trent. We don't know what his future is going to be. It's shrouded in will he, won't he, move on. But we've had quite a few displays from Trent this season that have not been up to scratch, and today was another one. And I'm not talking about general play. We had loads and loads of possession, and Trent can get in nice positions and put in some decent crosses. We all know he can do that. He can do that better than probably anyone in the Premier League. But that right back area, he had youngster Kwanzaa having to come and cover him. He was caught AWOL so many times upfield, and twice, once when they scored after 3 minutes, and another one about 10 minutes later, where Chelsea are on the attack and he does not even look over his shoulder. Not once does he look over his shoulder to see where the danger is. And there was danger. And he's looking at the player with the ball, and he's just watching him, and he's making no attempt to say, I am gonna look after my area of the pitch, and he didn't do it. And the number of times he got caught upfield, there was a break on in the second half, and I actually said to my mate who was watching it with me, they showed the replay of the Chelsea attack, and I said, where is Trent? Where is he? Because they showed a panoramic scan of the field, and he was way off in the Chelsea half while they're having a counter-attack break. And it wasn't one of those where you know they won the ball and whacked it forward. They played it forward, and he was nowhere to be seen. And I don't know, but I look at that and go, is that the performance of a player who has just won the league and knows he's moving on? Because that's what it looked like for me. Don't want it to be, but that's what it looked like for me. And we got better in the right back area, and we got better even as an attacking force on the right hand side when Conor Bradley came on. Honestly, I thought a couple of months ago, specifically it was the Man United game, I thought Trent's gone. And I've been hoping, especially seeing his celebration last week, that maybe I was wrong. But I look at that today and I go, no, I think he's gone. But we'll see, I might be wrong. Just trying to read the tea leaves. So I'm sorry if that comes across as a negative review. It's not. As I say, it's me just trying to kind of look to the future. And yeah, we've won the league. Check, as Bob Paisley and Bill Shankly used to say, right, we've won the league, it's on to the next one. So this is all about on to the next one. And what is the squad going to look like next season? I am going to finish off on the positives of it all, right? We are by far the best team in England, with by far the best squad, which is why we won it. We're 20 times champions. Mo Salah's still going to win the Golden Boot. Virgil van Dijk, along with Mo, has already signed and has been the best defender of the season. We scored in our 31st successive game in the league, and we're 15 points clear of everyone with 3 games to go. Arne Slot did this at Feyenoord. He came into a team that needed a rebuild. And I'm not saying we need a rebuild, but what he did is he took out a whole bunch of players and he brought in a host of players handpicked by him. And I think we've got a very, very interesting summer coming up as to the outgoings and the incomings. And I have full faith after what he did with Feyenoord. And once he did all that, he went on to win the league with Feyenoord. So I have full faith that he can do exactly the same for us. So we're in very, very good hands. So 3 games to go. Let's go and have party time next week where Raheem Sterling gives us a guard of honour. Let's beat them. Let's beat them. Let's rub it in. Let's put Arsenal to 3rd or 4th or 5th place. Wouldn't that be nice? Cheers. You never walk alone. All the best. Ta-ra.